Hi, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about this. Let's talk about ingratitude and taking things for granted, okay? I already made a video on gratitude and how important it is in our lives to be grateful for everything that we have, even the smallest things, because we tend to take a lot of things for granted, especially the smaller things, okay? So, the reason why I wanted to speak to you about this topic is because something recently happened to me in my personal life. And God has showed me that I could have had it a lot worse. And that I should in fact be grateful and more grateful for what I do have. Okay? So there comes a time when you will start taking things for granted. And sometimes God will be kind enough to show you that you were in fact taking these things for granted, okay? And I will also explain something to you about your intuition and why, for example, your intuition might just completely shut down at certain times, okay? And why you're not getting any signs or signals, or why you're not getting any downloads, basically, why you're not hearing your intuition at specific times, okay? And the reason being for that is usually it has something to do with basically something not being the right decision, okay? And whereas you don't make a decision on that particular thing that you were trying to get, okay? So, and I will give you an example of this, okay? Just to make it a little bit less confusing. Anyway, so here is what happened to me, okay? Recently I started kind of getting a little bit more agitated and just annoyed with the place that we were living in, right? It had to do with a couple of different factors around our area. Okay, so it wasn't necessarily the place itself, right? But I just started focusing on the negative, basically, right? And of course, this can happen to everyone, right? Where we just start to focus on the negative because of other, perhaps not so pleasant things that are taking place in our lives, right? So we can get into this negative state where we once again become less appreciative of the things that we have in our lives, right? And so one of those things was my place, right? And so also, right, basically my landlord, or my agent actually, he gave us a call and he was like, hey, the owners decided to increase the rent here, so here's what it's going to be. And I was like, wow, okay. I looked at the number and I was like, okay, this is much higher than that, because they've been increasing rent here like almost every year, but this time around it was like a lot more than what it really should be, right? But so I was pretty surprised and I was kind of unhappy about that, So I decided to look at some other places, I was like, this place isn't so great anyways, right? So I just started looking for all these like reasons not to like this place even more, right? And so, so we scheduled, even though it was really inconvenient, right? We scheduled to look at some other places for around the same price. And of course, lo and behold, the places that they did have available, right? I looked at like some online places, right? I looked at a lot of different websites, and the places were, they cost a lot more money, basically, right? And they were kind of like, for the price that we're paying now, the other places were just a lot worse, right? They looked worse, they were in the worst area. And so we scheduled a meeting, right? With my agent decided to he decided to show me 3 different places. So we looked at those three places, and um, yeah, they were just in the worst area. I wasn't too happy. The area wasn't that bad. It was okay. It was, it was still pretty good, but it wasn't where really preferred to live, right? That's one thing. Another is that the first place was way too small. Actually, all three places were too small, especially in comparison to the place that we're living in now. So that was another thing, right? And then basically the moral of the story, right, to make this long story short, is that I realized how good we had it here, okay? Because the cost of living here has been increasing, right? The rent prices have been going up because more and more people are moving here. I think they're realizing how great this place is. It's like living in Lake Tahoe, basically, right? I don't know if you guys know, but it's like living in Lake Tahoe, but because the architecture of the buildings is very similar. There's no well, actually, there's a lake in the mountains, right? So it's a really really nice touristy place. It's extremely quiet here during the summer, and it gets very touristy, very busy here during the winter, right? Most people from around Europe come here to ski. And so this place is like Lake Tahoe, basically, okay, of California, in California, right? So it's really, really nice. Only the rent, the cost of living here is just way, way, way cheaper, and it's just extremely healthy. There are a lot of animals, The food is just the best, some of the best in the world, I would say. We can get fresh milk here straight from a cow. We have fresh springs here. We can swim in the waterfalls, and it's just extremely amazing, So I think a lot of people are realizing how cheap it is how relatively cheap it still is to live here in comparison to everywhere else, So yeah, so that's why I think the cost of living has been increasing here, and prices of apartments have gone up, over the years. And so yeah, anyway, so to make this long story short, God showed me how good I have it, how good we had it here. We have all of these different amenities, right? Still, that the other apartments didn't have, not even close. The place itself is fairly big. There's a huge bathtub, there's a big balcony. It's just nice. It's really nice. We've got a fireplace. But anyway, so in comparison to all the other places, and for the same price, it was just like, yeah, I was like, okay, wow. So my intuition, when it came to those places, it just completely died. It was quiet. And I even meditated on it. I sat, and I was like, what is going on? Why did my intuition just suddenly just stop? Why am I not listening? Why am I not hearing anything, Why am I not getting any kind of guidance on this? So just, of course, when I looked at the third place, I kind of agreed to it. I was like, okay, well, maybe, yeah, I think this is probably the best one out of the three. So we're probably going, but then I told my agent, I was like, listen, let me just sit on it for like a day or two, and then I'll let you know, okay? So anyways, so my intuition during all of this time, it was just, it died. It went quiet, And I was like, why am I not getting any guidance? This is very strange. Usually at times like this, you shouldn't make a decision on those things that you're considering, because those are the things that are not right for you. Okay, that's what I noticed. Okay, and so you should reconsider them, basically, okay? And so suddenly I had an idea, right? As I was meditating, and I thought, negotiate the price. Try to lower it. And I was thinking, but it would still be kind of too much, right now. But still, I thought about it. I was like, okay, I think I can do it, So really what it comes down to is also your abilities and your belief in yourself and your ability to pay for this, right? And to be able to pay for this. So I was like, okay, I believe in myself. I can do it. That's one thing, right? And then, I'm going to try to negotiate, right? And get this get them to drop the price a little bit, right? And so I did, and he agreed like very fast, and I was really happy about that, and I really felt so grateful because it could have been a lot worse, basically, right? So I didn't appreciate the place. I didn't appreciate our circumstances even, you know? So that's one thing, right? Another one is also, hold on one second. Really good tea. This is like lemon black tea. Yum yum. Really good. Anyway, so another one, right? Another situation was with my kiddo too. Of course, once we get into this kind of negative state of mind, right, where we just start seeing flaws in everything, right, it tends to translate into other areas of our life, right? And so we tend to attract the same circumstances too, right? So be careful what you focus on. So another thing was with my kiddo too, right? I just became kind of like overly negative about my kiddo, right? And I was like, because you know, as you guys know, the toddler age is like ages 2 to maybe 5, right? It's really difficult. It can be extremely challenging for parents, especially if you have a spirited kid who's overly emotional, right? And so it can be extremely triggering for parents, and it can be very difficult. It can be very challenging, you know? And so I was, you know, I was and I still am dealing with a lot of that too, right? So, you know, whereas like you want your kid to be rational, right? Until a certain age, they're just not rational. And so things can get very tricky and challenging in this department, right? For parents, you can be thinking like, what is going on? You know, this makes no sense. Like, why would he even start crying, right? But he does, right? And that's okay, right? Kids can cry. Kids, it is a big deal for your kid, right? Just because it's not a big deal for you doesn't mean it's not a big deal for him, right? So we adults have different expectations, right? And viewpoints, right? And different perceptions, different ways of looking at the world, right? Whereas kids have a completely different one too, and we as adults tend to forget this, right? And so yeah. And anyways, but my kiddo, you know, I've noticed that he's extremely emotional, overly emotional. I would say probably even more emotional than all the other kids that are around him, right? So, and that's okay, you know, because I'm the same way. So, you know, I understand, right? So your sensitivity is not bad. It's not. It's just, I think for parents with the kiddo that's like this, things can get more tricky. It's harder to deal with in some ways. And so, especially if you yourself grew up as a child who had to shut down their emotions, you know? And so this is teaching me like emotional regulation and accepting emotions within myself too, okay? Because if I'm accepting uncomfortable emotions within myself, then I can accept them from my kid too, and I'm not going to shut his emotions down, you know? So that's another thing, right, that I learned. But anyways, guys, so basically, right, back to this, right? So I became a little bit more negative when it came to my kiddo, right? And so so lo and behold, God showed me another thing, okay? A woman came to us, or a new student, right? And I was like, okay, this is great, right? My summers tend to be a little bit slower when it comes to students, right? And then it starts picking up when students start school again, right? So I don't know why, but adults do the same thing. Like they also start wanting to learn, and you know, it's like a cycle, or maybe it's even programming, you know? And so a lot of people start, you know, wanting to learn English, to take English classes, right? around September. Okay, so I tend to get a lot more students then, from then on out, right? In the summer it slows down, people go on vacations, right, and so on. So anyway, so I got another student, right, and she just took one class with me, okay, but we had an interesting chat, okay, and I found out, you know, when she was doing the video with me, right, video chat with me, I saw her apartment, you know, and it was just extremely gorgeous. You know, I could tell that it was a house somewhere in Yurmala, right? Yurmala has like huge mansions, you know, and I've taught in some of those classes in Yurmala, right? So I could tell she had a house like that, basically, right? Like huge ceilings, just really really stunning house, a stunning house. So I was like, okay, well, they're very wealthy, you know. So, well, financially, right? Anyways, but she told me, you know, I said, "No, do you have any kids, you know?" And as we were speaking about my kid, right? And she said, you know, I'm 48, you know, and no, we don't have any kids, unfortunately. And, you know, we've been trying for years and years, and it hasn't happened, you know, for us. You know, we were just at some point we were overly focused on money, you know, and you know, we just kind of ignored my biological clock, right? Which is also questionable. I don't think, I think if it's God's will, okay, then a woman can have kids at almost any age, until a certain point, maybe 50, right? But there have been many instances like this, you know, where women had kids at very, basically an age that's considered to be just not outrageous, but what's the word that I'm looking for? Basically late, very late, right? Very late in their years, right? And so if it's God's will, you will have children. You know, that's what I think. I think having children is something that it's not just up to us. It has to be God's will. It's a God's blessing, okay? And so she told me, hey, I don't have kids, you know, I'm 48. I wish we had kids, you know. I really, really long for a child, but it hasn't happened. You know, we just, like I said, they focused on making money on money, and they missed their chance, you know, missed their opportunity, basically, right? And so now she told me we're sad and we're just, you know, regretful. And once again, God showed me, like, hey, do you see this? Like, she has money, right? They've got money. They have, you know, they seem to have all the worldly things, right? But they're missing this one important component, right? And that's you know, a child, right? And so a child is really truly a blessing. It's no matter how crazy they make us, you know, they still bring so much joy into our lives, right? And we must not forget it. We must never overlook that, you know. It's so easy to just take things for granted that have always been there. Sorry. No. Oh my God, my throat is like dry. So it's really easy to take things for granted that are there, basically, you know, that are just there, and like a child is with you every day, right? So learn to appreciate the things that people bring into your life. If it's someone special that makes you feel great about yourself, and that's, you know, helping you in one way or another, or they're just, I don't know, they make you happy just by being themselves, right? Then appreciate that. You know, learn to view things from a positive perspective, right? Rather than the negative one. You know, so I know so many of us are going through different difficulties, right, in our lives. And like I said, it's really easy to get caught up in them. and to just lose your focus, and to get into this negative state of being, negative state of mind, right? From then, guys, you know, you're like in a hurricane, right? Just going nowhere, or just you're like stuck in a quicksand, okay? When it comes to negativity, it's like quicksand. It sucks you in, right? And then before you know it, your life is just like it's your world is looking in like a completely different way, right? Something that you never wanted it to look like, right? So be careful with negativity, be careful with being ungrateful. And also, of course, by being ungrateful, we are often blocking our own blessings, you know, God's blessings. And so God is kind, God is good. He will show you, you know, He will show you where you need to, how good you have it. So you are grateful again, you know? So always appreciate the things that you have in your life, even if it's just food, you know, being able to buy food, you know, clothes, I don't know, the fresh air that you're breathing, right? The environment that you're in, maybe it's good, right? And of course, you know, always know that, you know, nothing is stagnant, nothing is the same. So even if your circumstances are like beyond negative, right, and just completely almost unbearable, you can always change them. You can always change them, you know. Things don't have to be the same. It is up to you to take that power back into your hands and to change your circumstances. And so yes, you know, and like I said, while you're in those circumstances, appreciate the good things that you have. Learn to see the good, and strive to be the best that you can. You know, strive for the best, because you can get the best if you really want to. You know, of course, it takes faith, right? But faith without works is dead, right? Which means that you also have to put in the work, right? You have to put in the work. In order to have that life that you desire, okay? Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed my story today. Thank you so much for being here with me and listening, and I will see you very soon. Bye.